More fraud prosecutors needed in Minnesota, lawmaker tells U.S. senators. State Rep. Kristin Robbins was one of 3 witnesses who testified to the Senate Committee on the Judiciary at its hearing on Somali Scammers, fighting fraud in Minnesota and beyond. She also gave written testimony, stating, "You can help us find the truth in Minnesota and other states that are just starting to uncover similar fraud in their Medicaid, child nutrition, and child care services." The U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota needs more resources, she said, specifically more prosecutors and forensic accountants. Her call for reinforcements followed the recent departures of several federal prosecutors from that office, including First Assistant U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson. He formerly served as acting U.S. Attorney in Minnesota and had spearheaded fraud prosecutions in his home state since at least 2022. The resignations came amid tensions over federal agents' clashes with protesters, particularly with those who took steps to block officers from arresting illegal immigrants. Related stories. The Epoch Times. Homan announced drawdown of 700 federal agents in Minnesota. The Epoch Times. How easy is it to open a daycare in Minnesota? 2 of those encounters turned deadly, resulting in more protests. President Trump sent border czar Tom Homan to continue enforcing immigration laws while also attempting to reach a détente with Minnesota leaders and other opponents of the enforcement actions. In addition to boosting personnel at the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota, the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services needs more fraud investigators to help us get to the bottom of this, said Robbins, who was also among a trio of Minnesota lawmakers who testified January 7th to the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Robbins' latest testimony to the Senate comes a month before the House Committee will question 2 top Minnesota leaders, Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellison, about the fraud scandals that have enveloped the North Star state. As an additional measure, Robbins recommended that federal lawmakers tighten requirements on cash leaving the country. There is currently no upper limit on the amount that can be carried out, and there is no need to declare any currency taken on domestic flights, she said, noting that fraudsters of Somali origin have been sending money back to their homeland and that terrorists have been believed to have skimmed some of those ill-gotten gains. The Treasury Department has been investigating that allegation since late last year. The amount of fraud in Minnesota is staggering, and we are still at the beginning of understanding its breadth and depth, Robbins said in her written remarks. Last fall, Thompson estimated that $9 billion could have been lost to 14 Medicaid programs that are considered at risk for fraud. That was based on records that were still being reviewed dating to 2018, he said at the time, and that figure does not encompass all fraud scandals identified in Minnesota. A second witness who testified to the Senate committee was lifelong Minnesotan David Hoch. He spent years doing research that laid the groundwork for a viral video published by YouTuber Nick Shirley that has drawn nearly 132 million views on X since it was posted December 26th, and prompted multiple federal investigations and focused national attention on Minnesota fraud. Since then, concerns of similar fraudulent operations have spread to other states, including Ohio, where the extent of possible fraud remained unclear as of late January. Hoch's Minnesota research found that Minneapolis was the incubator for this nationwide Somali network, dating back as far as 1988, according to Hoch's written testimony. He said there is a seemingly endless list of nonprofit organizations that are involved in multiple types of fraud. Hoch filed a formal complaint against Walz with the Minnesota Office of the Legislative Auditor, alleging that Walz failed to follow a law requiring certain steps to be taken after allegations of fraud. Walz has defended his record. In a recent social media post, the Democratic governor said, "The buck stops with me. If you commit fraud in Minnesota, you will be caught and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law." Hoch also testified what sparked his investigation. He began noticing childcare centers were popping up throughout Minneapolis. Yet, he wrote in his testimony, there were never any footprints outside many of these childcares in the dead of winter of snowy Minnesota winters. The centers were located in commercial or industrial buildings, in bad neighborhoods, locations where he doubted parents would feel comfortable dropping off their children. He wrote, "None of it made any sense." Then he noticed that one childcare, Quality Learning Center, had a sign outside reading Quality Luring Center without the first N in learning. The luring misspelling was what became, for me, the last straw, he wrote. That's the spark that ignited my full-on investigation. A third witness who testified to the Senate committee, Robert Weissman, co-president of Public Citizen, a public advocacy organization, alleged that the current president's actions have hurt anti-fraud efforts. Weissman cited the administration's gutting the public integrity section of the Justice Department and disbanding its consumer protection branch. In addition, Weissman said Trump has aggressively used his pardon power to forgive fraudsters, leading to the cancellation of more than $1.5 billion owed in fines and restitution. If you found this article interesting, please consider supporting traditional journalism. Our first edition was published 25 years ago from a basement in Atlanta. Today, the Epoch Times brings fact-based, award-winning journalism to millions of Americans. Our journalists have been threatened, arrested, and assaulted, but our commitment to independent journalism has never wavered. This year marks our 25th year of independent reporting, free from corporate and political influence. That's why you're invited to a limited-time introductory offer, just $1 per week for 1 year, so you can join millions already celebrating independent news. Subscribe. Limited-time offer. Cancel anytime.